morning. I'm Josh George at Honda. I'm very excited to be here with you this morning. I'm actually in the NVH group at ADC. That's our Automotive Development Center in Ohio. Kind of an overview of what I'm going to cover today. First, I'm going to talk about an overview of the Honda driving simulators, specifically the VI grade simulators that we have at our different research facilities. Then I'm going to cover the lab that we've set up in Ohio for our NVH simulator compact. And then I'll discuss our procedure for virtual drive events that we've established over the last couple years of development, specifically talking about the ability to use a GUI interface to facilitate the evaluations of virtual drive events. And then I'll have a successful use case as an example and some conclusions. So like I said, Central Ohio, we have an automotive development center. This is our large North American center, but we also have, of course, Honda in Japan, our R&D facility there. And then we have a smaller R&D facility in Germany. In Germany and Japan, we actually have DIM 250 and DIM 300 simulators, as well as some desktop simulators. And then in Ohio, we have a compact NVH simulator. If you look at the timeline, we actually received desktop and a compact simulator just at the beginning of 2023. And then over the past 2 years, we've essentially been developing a sustainable operation. So our goal is actually to use the simulators to improve our development efficiency. We need to be able to produce vehicles faster. And so we've created a standard procedure. We've developed a sustainable operation and integrated them into development flow. And something else I'll talk about is the importance of kind of finding a sweet spot with immersion. This is what our simulator setup looks like. And actually, so the simulator setup, basically we've actually added an extra screen, and you can see that we have a row of headphones in the back for when we do large evaluations where we need multiple users. So some of the things that we've worked on is a virtual drive event. So this is when we have an evaluator come sit in the simulator to evaluate the NV. And what we found out early on is there's a sweet spot level of immersion. At first, we were trying to incorporate a VR headset to get the person fully immersed into the virtual environment. But we actually found in this case that it was a distraction from the NV. So we actually backed off of incorporating the virtual headset. What we found was, if you look at the number 2 up there, you'll actually see that's a video of our actual proving ground. So we do use WorldSim for some of our evaluations, but in a lot of cases, we actually prefer to use playback of our actual track. The reason this is nice is because our technical experts, our evaluators, are very used to the track. They're used to the lengths. It's a familiar scene, and so it puts them in the mindset of being on our actual NV track. Some other small things that we've done, if you look at the number 1, we've actually implemented just a start button from a Honda Pilot instead of having the green and red buttons to start the simulator. And these are very small things, but they actually make a difference when you have somebody come into the simulator that hasn't been it before. Some of these things make it much more intuitive and inviting. We try to find ways to avoid wasting our evaluators' time. Our technical experts have very little time, and so when they come down, we want them to be able to instantly digest what the simulation is about instead of having to take a lot of time to explain all of the limitations of the simulator and to kind of set the stage for the evaluation. We want them to be able to digest it very quickly and get into the actual work. So we've worked on creating a custom GUI, and I'll cover that in just a second. And then the other thing is actually to use the NVH simulator to try and train a non-V expert. So if we have a project guy come down, can we use the simulator to train them on what they're listening for? So moving on to a custom GUI. You'll see on the left side of the screen, this is the these are the buttons in VI NVH sim to change which vehicle is active. And it actually works great, very simple interface. But the limitations here are that if you start to get a lot of text, because you have subtle nuances between the different models, and you get a whole bunch of them, it becomes very cumbersome to look at, especially for an evaluator that's not used to the model. They come down and they're trying to select between different scenarios, different surfaces, and it can become a lot. So what we've worked on recently is actually creating a custom GUI interface. On the right-hand side, you'll see just one example. So you can use pictures of the vehicle or pictures of the components that were changed. You can also have icons from the OEMs. You can have plots. You can have data tables. All of this can be active so that LEDs or things are highlighted as they click on the different options. So in thinking about something that would be useful, a good takeaway for everybody that is using the simulator, these GUIs have made it much easier to do our evaluations. So on the left side, you'll actually see another example of a GUI. So in this case, we have a map where we're looking at front seat cruise NV. This is something our evaluators are used to looking at. Of course, they've stripped away all of the axes and that kind of stuff. But when we look at this, we actually put the icons of the different OEMs on this map. And it's very intuitive for the evaluators to touch the different icons and to be able to hear the vehicles for those different surfaces. We're looking at articulation index on the y-axis, and front head sum. This is like we call it concrete Zarme, but it's essentially a rough road surface. Now what we've done is we've made it so the GUI interface can be created in PowerPoint. So you actually could have your evaluator tell you, I want you guys to create an NVH model that looks like this. We have, these different tire sets, or we have these different vehicles. They can actually paint the image in PowerPoint, so it's very intuitive. They don't have to be an expert in the software. And then we use Max 8, but you could use any other software that is capable of doing the same thing, where we essentially create these selectable icons that we can overlay over the image from PowerPoint. So when they touch those, it will actually first compile. It uses an assembly switcher JavaScript to compile what the simulator is expecting to be able to switch the vehicle. And then that gets passed through a port. UDP sends that. And then VI NVH sim switches the active car. So this might look like a very subtle thing, but this has actually completely changed our evaluations. We can paint the picture that our evaluators expect to see, that they're used to seeing, and it makes it very easy for them to switch vehicles. Case in point, we recently had a change that we were out driving a vehicle. We noticed that there was a particular peak that was a little bit excessive. And so we actually used CAE to find a countermeasure to bring that peak down. When we went out on the test track, we had to do a part swap to compare a baseline to this new performance with a new component. I'm just using a generic picture here. But what we found was, especially our non-NV experts, that 10 minutes was long enough that their acoustic memory had gone. So they weren't able to perceive a difference of the baseline and some delta in those 10 minutes. So this is where the simulator came into play. We basically decided, okay, let's actually use the simulator to train the non-NV expert of what to listen for. So we used filters to actually filter out everything except that one peak. So the non-expert sat in there, they listened to a particular peak, and then we said, okay, when we pull everything else back in, this is what you're listening for. And then, of course, we generated the GUI that made it very intuitive what they were looking at before and after. So they were able to go back and forth between the baseline and some delta. And the difference actually was very obvious. It was neat to see our project guys kind of their eyes light up, and they're like, holy cow, this actually makes a huge difference, this component. So this helped us win the battle for performance. So in conclusion, Honda is investing in driving simulators at all of our facilities to help improve development efficiency. We've completed our NVH simulator development program that we've had to try and establish a process. And we've improved the graphical user interface for virtual drive events. And that's been successful in streamlining our process and making it more intuitive. Thank you.